Hi, everyone, and welcome to Campground Confidential, a podcast about starting, running, and growing your campground business. I'm Stephanie Puglisi. On each podcast episode, we'll talk to campground owners and other experts in the outdoor hospitality industry. We'll hear stories about what it's really like to own a campground, the good, the bad, and the ugly. From Park Vendor Review, this is Campground Confidential. My guest today is Marcia Neese, owner, along with her husband Jim, of RiverWalk RV Park in Jonesville, North Carolina. Marcia and Jim spent 2 years building their campground and then opened RiverWalk RV Park in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. Even though the journey to opening the campground was not without its challenges, Marcia's prior professional experience in sales and managing multi-million-dollar businesses has been worth its weight in gold. She also attributes their success to their commitment to leading with their heart and always trusting their instincts to provide an amazing guest experience for all of their visitors. Welcome to the show, Marcia.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk about your campground. It's been a real pleasure for me to meet so many of these smaller campground owner and operators who are really, in my opinion, as a family camper of, 15 plus years, doing the Lord's work out there for us to give us like these affordable, beautiful places to camp with RVs. So thank you.
Well said, and you're welcome.
Great. So having said that, why don't you give our listeners just the rundown of your campground, including like the location, your sites, your makeup of your clientele and your guests, and just the basic nitty-gritty of your campground?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So we consider ourselves a boutique size RV park, which is 51 sites. And we are located in Jonesville, North Carolina. That borders the Yadkin River with Elkin, which more people are familiar with, but Jonesville's up and coming. And we are RV sites only for our park. And we're located on, as I said, the Yadkin River, and just tons of things to do in the area that was untapped prior to us introducing people to it.
So help me out with geography here. About how far away from, say, Asheville are you?
Um, you could have asked me any other question
Oh,
today.
no, okay.
No.
So
Asheville, we're about, I think, 3.5, 4 hours from.
Okay. So do you still sort of get that type of camper to your campground that's looking for that outdoor recreation experience, the river, the hiking, the mountains, or are you a different type of crowd?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as our demographic, all of our campers are about an hour from home. I'd say 80 to 85% are an hour from home. If we had $1 every time we heard that when someone pulled in for the first time, I did not realize that prior to opening. My marketing efforts were about a 3-hour radius. And then as we started getting reservations coming in, I was able to use CampSpot to really drill down and figure out where our demo was, or where the area.
So that makes it a little bit easier for you to focus in your marketing dollars if you have that kind of data, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. I can focus elsewhere.
And that really aligns. Interestingly enough, I sometimes read the North American Camping Report, which year after year emphasizes what a short distance most campers travel. And it always surprises me because many of the people that talk about camping or talk about RVing or, we're talking about traveling longer distances and longer itineraries. So it's actually really nice to talk to a campground owner who is aligning with a lot of those statistics we see that most campers are camping pretty close to home.
Right. Yeah. And we have a beach on site, a man-made tranquil sandy beach. So a lot of the campers that typically would go to the beach, especially this time of year to find warmth, are actually camping at our park. So we've kind of created created the different ways to make sure that they were able to stay within that hour demo and still enjoy what we had to offer.
Well, speaking of man-made lakes, I'd love to jump into the story of how y'all built and opened your campground
Oh,
now.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
walk us through it. I know it wasn't without challenge, especially timing-wise. So just tell everybody how y'all decided to build a campground and then how that went for you.
Ugh. Well, a lot of it was God, faith. So I'd been in the corporate world for over 30 years, and I was going on 50, and the hubby was a professional athlete for years, and we have a small grading business as well. And so it was just getting exhausting. The hours that I was putting in, the inconsistency of the jobs that he would have or wouldn't have. And so we have total opposite skill sets, although we share a personality. It's quite interesting. And or how we interact with others, I should say, our love for people. And so we just kept tossing out ideas, and we'd be here all day going through some of the random stuff that I'm glad we didn't end up doing.
Okay,
Um,
but can you tell me like maybe two others? Now I'm curious.
yeah, yeah. I think one of the craziest one. It just sounds so morbid right now, but at the time it sounded great. One of the craziest ones was, why do funerals have to be morbid? Why does a funeral, right? So we were really digging deep on how we can change the world,
Right.
or our world, and so we were coming up with this just big elaborate celebration of life, so the party instead of the funeral,
Right.
and
Yeah.
all the way down to, you would plan your own in advance. So therefore nobody's planning it for you. When you're gone, you're going to know what it's going to be like, and that's for those control freaks as well. So yeah, that would just be one of them. That was probably the more extreme
Someone's
one.
going to listen to this and take that and run with it. We've lost some close people to us in the past year, and this resonates so deeply with my soul, Marcia.
Yeah.
So I just really encourage someone out there to do this.
Well, if they want to get with me, I've got a little business model, all the way down to letting the person who's planning their celebration of life do little videos for those in their family and different things like that. So
So instead, you went to the campground.
yeah, we did. The way that we ended up with our park is, we again prayed a lot, dug deep, and my husband, as I said, was a motocross professionally, and our son does as well. And so over the years, we had never even camped in an RV park, which is the craziest thing. But I think the most unique thing about us, we stayed in stadium parking lots, like huge football stadium parking lots, and in big fields. And throughout the years, we grew up, we were raised, or our son was raised around the same families. We were cooking out together, they were hanging out together. So the part we knew and we loved was the community piece,
Hmm.
but we didn't have any of the stereotype, or we didn't, what's the best word to say? We didn't want to be a typical park. We wanted to
Hmm.
do things the way we would want it done. If we came down the hill that we're on, we call it rolling down the hill, how would we want it to look and feel? So therefore, we did not want to stay at parks. So I take that. Let me back up a little bit. The way that it came
Hmm.
about was, I wanted to actually, before this even came to mind, I was like, let's take our camper and go stay in Asheville, which you had mentioned Asheville. We
Right.
love hiking there. Let's do something other than, than camping at the races with it. So he got on the phone, and he started calling around. He couldn't reach anybody. If he did, they were rude, or they never called back, or it was fax machines, and couldn't get a lot of information. And he got so frustrated with it. I came home one day and he said, I think I know what we're going to do, but I feel like we can do it better than the experience that I've experienced. And I said, oh, okay, all right, well, what's that? And he told me, and I went, okay, all right, and just kind of said, okay.
Immediately connected with the idea.
I thought it was a great idea. I just didn't know, neither one of us knew anything about it. And so he started searching at night. It was a lengthy process without a lot of effort in the beginning. It's kind of like we were walking uphill, and then all of a sudden we just ran down the other side when we started figuring it out, and found the property, and we decided we were going to open a campground. So I did I love researching. I did a ton of research using on marketing forum for managers and owners, and created spreadsheets on top of spreadsheets, as my husband calls them. And we just kind of made it all happen. But again, we made it happen how, when I say I use the forums, it was more of what do I put in my camp store for transient parks. And I forgot to mention we
Mm-hmm.
are a transient only park.
Okay.
Little things like that, but not how should we do things. It's here's some ideas, but let's do them our way. And we haven't looked back yet.
And do you have sort of this overarching way of describing what your way is? I think from what I'm hearing, it's really about a lot of love and open-heartedness. Like that's what I
Yeah.
get from you. Like you just really cared about the experience and people
hmm
having a good experience. But what else is that, just North Star for you for your way?
Yeah. So just to sum it all up, it is a labor of love. We built everything ourselves other than subbing out some plumbing on our bathhouse. He, for 2 years graded a land that was completely full of weeds, basically.
Mhm.
Um, Once he graded, he then took our camper and pulled it out in every site. So our initial dream is actually drawn on a paper towel, nothing fancy. And so he kept changing that and just put, like I said, the way that he would want things done. Everything's super level because he's very OCD about that because we have a grading company.
Yeah.
But we just kind of kept, and we continue to this day. We're never done. Whatever we can do to create just the ultimate guest experience. We we've just fallen completely in love with the community that we've been built. I think one of the unique things about Riverwalk is our guests have created a community and a transient environment, and that doesn't happen typically. From a private forum with over 3,500 uh, followers, to meeting there, camping other places, camping at our park, all the way down to just becoming lifelong friends. But we all stick together. There's no drama, there's no negativity. It sounds like rainbows and unicorns, but anyone that's in this forum will tell you it is. We it's a great little place to be.
That is I've been talking to campground owners for a long time, and I think that this is the first time I've ever heard someone say that they had a private forum for campers, and this isn't in the context of a seasonal,
hmm
right, group
Yeah,
of people.
yeah,
So that's really remarkable that you've been able to get people to connect with other people there and really build that draw. Probably, I mean, I'm sure your rebooking rate percentage is far above average with that kind of organic technique.
yeah. A good point. We actually, some of our guests created the forum. It wasn't anything that we did on our end, and they're the administrators of it. But you'll see, I go into most of the North Carolina camping forums and just kind of look to see if anybody's got any questions or places they're looking to camp. And I would spend a lot of time just kind of putting information about ourselves. And then our guests just kind of took that over, and they're like, join us here, Riverwalk enthusiasts, da, da, da. And you would see, everyone's just kind of coming over and meeting one another. And again, whether they camp at our park or elsewhere, it's okay with us.
Mhm.
It's just the community that means the most to us.
That's amazing. So, speaking of community, I think you opened in 2020. Am I correct on that year? Um,
Yes.
so community was a little tough at that time. You opened right in the middle of the pandemic.
hmm
There's two sides to that from where I stand, where one, you were dealing with challenges that people who'd been in the industry forever, right, were really struggling with. So you not only had the challenges of a new campground, but you also had the challenges that nobody else knew how to deal with. Um, but the flip side of that is that camping exploded in popularity. So, kind of talk about the two sides of that coin and how they impacted you opening a brand new campground.
Yeah. Well, I I had started our journey, just bringing everyone along on it. I was posting videos, weekly, bi-weekly, just what we're doing, where we're with it, asking for suggestions, listening to, to this day, we're very open to feedback, very open. And just brought everyone along on our journey. So before we even opened the park, we were booked up for the first month, on weekends. Again, there's 51 sites total. 49 of those we book out. And so I will tell you that opening during COVID, I don't, it had a very positive effect, as odd as that is to say, because it wasn't a positive time, and we're
Hmm.
always living the new norm from it. But we've been booked every weekend since our park opened in June of 2020. With the exception of, after the first weekend in December, I stopped the event so we can all kind of catch our breath. January and February we close, other than phone coverage, for the season, so everybody can recharge and be with their families, and then we come back together in March. So other than that, and an occasional cancellation last minute, which I post them at 8 o'clock on Facebook every evening when we have them, and they fill within 30 seconds. So outside of that, we have been booked every weekend. And I think it is just a wonderful mix of, as we're talking about this community we've built, those that talk about it and others who can't get into our park that want nothing more than come visit. And that's one of the hardest challenges with us, is people are like, "Yeah, we want to come more, but you're booked up," and it makes me sad. But we don't want to expand, although eventually we could, because we would lose the part that we fell in love with, and that's being a part of our campground instead of managing a campground. And that's what our goal was with the park. um, I would say, the other piece of that is, when we opened, we had every intention on getting staff on board, walking away, me continuing my corporate career and him continuing building racetracks and everything that he does. And um, the first camper rolled down that hill, and we had never felt a feeling quite like that. And to this day, it's still surreal. It feels like a honeymoon period. We've never been in love with something so much, well, other than one another and our son. But they're all on the
The
same
other
level.
child.
Yeah, our other child. They're all on the same. It's all on the same level. It was like, I can't go back to my corporate career. This is what I want to do. So I did for a bit, and I worked for CampSpot for a bit part time, until I was able to finally, work at the park. And I do 7 days a week nonstop. I closed my laptop at 11 o'clock last night, but I can promise you that it wasn't a close and a sigh. It was a close with happiness. So
Right. Yeah.
it
All
doesn't
right.
feel
And
like
tomorrow's
work.
another day, right?
Yep, yep.
That's really a wonderful story to hear. And I'm sure very inspiring for some of the people listening who, right, building a campground has become more popular than ever, right? Like
Right. Yeah.
you were ahead of the curve on that. And now more and more people are thinking about this as that sort of second wave, right,
Hmm.
of employment or business operation, people bringing their previous experience and other capacities to this industry.
Sure.
So I'm sure that that's a very inspiring take. We can all hope to wake up and think another day of work, right? Yay. It's very
It's
lucky to have
true.
that for sure. So let's jump into the part of the show that we call Trend Talk. Now,
Okay.
you're a camp spot, campground. You've mentioned that to me and a couple and on times on the show. And I know CampSpot is very data driven with how they support their campgrounds that are on their platform. And they also release their reports, right? They like to support people with what was sort of compiling this data. So CampSpot's talking about the trends they see out there in camping, right? I think last year they were talking about their calmcations that they were expecting. Another big trend that everybody's been, it's solar eclipse, right? Like, so to what extent do you see these larger movements in the camping industry represented at your campground? Or do you feel like you're this little world that's
Mm.
created that's really outside of what we're all seeing across the board?
Yeah, I like the way you just explained that, because that's who we are at the end of the day. Just like I said, we didn't want to model ourselves against anyone else. It may sound naive, but we don't follow industry trends at our campground. We I'm not in. I did see all the Eclipse stuff. I follow the Woodall's magazine, different things. So I do see that.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
spend my time reading a lot of the articles if they're not pertaining to me. I like to make sure I'm spending the energy in the right places. So, and nothing against that, but just personally. Um, uh, so we focus, I guess, more on just tailoring our services to meet the specific needs of our guest. And I think I mentioned earlier the feedback that we get. By taking this approach, it helps us to ensure just a unique and personal experience for everyone who visits us. And I'm
Do you
sure
have
that's
any
what.
examples of some of the most helpful feedback that you received early on that really guided you to a change or to a development in the campground?
Um, Nothing big that stands out. Um, no. Mm-mm.
Okay. That's all right. That's all
um,
right. That was a it
yeah,
was a
yeah.
it was a hard ball, Marcia. That's all right.
Well, we
Um,
get a lot of, oh my gosh, we've never had anybody do it this way, or we love the way that you do it, or this. And so we kind of build our processes based on, I guess, the positive feedback,
mhm.
all the way down to, I don't know if it's more of a Southern thing and when I'm using this term, but in reviews and write ups, we've been compared to the Chick-fil-A of campgrounds, all the way down to where we meet them at the curb, but and check-in times. And we've got a welcome packet with all the things to do in the area, and I make sure the dog cookies are in there and the lollipops for the kids, and
That's
we,
good.
just give them a greeting, and I have a whole list of the weekend activities printed up for them so that we take over. They don't have to keep up with an agenda. So I think it's just the things that we already have in place. It's the feedback as what's working, what they enjoy the most, and then just drilling in and focusing more on that, all the way down to, I'll mention it again, CampSpot has a review source, to where they can leave reviews there. And I also have some, if they don't want them to be public reviews or public feedback, they can email me directly at checkout. And so we're very open to those kind of things too. One site may have such and such in the drainage. I have to pass it along the hubby who freaks out because that's his forte.
Right.
But again, we're open to it. But I think more so we use the feedback to continuously, um, improve on things that are working in our park versus things that are working everywhere else for everyone else.
I love that you're getting positive feedback about something you're doing, like the greeting. That is such people are tired when they show up at a campground after
Yeah,
towing, right? They're tired.
yeah,
And to have to go through a laborious process or to have to, you know, figure out how to get to your campsite or to have
hmm,
additional obstacles placed in your way can be
yeah,
very frustrating. So
yeah,
you saw that delight, right? And you making and then you just decided to expand that even further. I love that. My boys still to this day can tell you the first time that we showed up at a campground and they had cookies.
yeah.
Right? This campground
Oh,
did a fresh baked cookie for
mhm.
every kid that was checking in. And like if our travels were up to them, we would have only gone back to that campground.
Yes. That's how
Right?
my husband is with hotels. So he tells me what chain to book at because he knows where the warm cookie's going to be. So
Yeah.
we haven't gotten that far with our
Wow.
campground, because I don't know if I could get him out of the office. But yes, I exactly. It's the memorable experience. It's that experience that we're trying to
Mhm.
create, and not just one person's experience, but tap into all the things that could touch everyone that's camping and what works best. All the way down to our camp host escort them to their site, as you said. And
Yes.
prior to the campground industry, I was in the sales training, and the sales training industry, and just learn to understand how to interact with others, behavior styles, different things like that. So if someone comes in and they have a high energy dominant behavior style, I'm not going to sit there and warm fuzzy them to death. I know they wanted me to be brief, be bright, and be gone because they're ready to go camping. And so I'm able
Yeah.
to read that and also teach our camp hosts those kind of things, to where, stereotypically sometimes we can, I'm a warm fuzzy. I do like to carry on, but I'm always reading my audience to see if that's what they're wanting or needing, or if they just want to be taken to their site and left alone. Uh,
Right.
all the way down to we deliver firewood and ice and we do trash pickup kind of things.
We have an article over on Park Vendor Review that I did based on a poll we put out for like over 5,000 campers, and it was like, what is the whole idea was like, what is the smallest, simplest thing that causes you happiness at a campground? And so many of the things you just mentioned made that list. So we ended up compiling, like, I don't remember what I did, like 30 free or almost free things you can do to delight your guests.
Oh,
And that the stuff that you're mentioning, delivering firewood, right? Like it's so little, but it makes people unreasonably happy. So,
right. Yes.
you
Yes.
can find those ways to delight your guests without
Hmm.
breaking the budget, I think.
That's so
And
true.
speaking of this will take us into our mini master class with you.
Okay. Okay.
So this is I in researching your campground and looking online and at your website and everything, I noticed that you have a lot of interaction with your vendors in your community,
Hmm.
providing like entertainment or services or things like that at your campground or food.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, I want to talk to Marcia about this because so many campground owners are missing this opportunity. They think if they want to serve food at their campground, they have to open up a restaurant or a
Oh,
snack stand. Or if they want to do recreation, they have to run the programs, right? And
right.
there's so many people in the community that would love to come in and run a yoga class or love to bring their
Hmm.
food truck. So I wondered if we could talk a little bit about how that developed and just sort of some examples and how it's worked for you at your campground.
Yep. Yeah, sure. Well, it developed just kind of as we were talking about opening in the height of COVID. In Elkin, which is our neighboring town, we would go while we were building prior to COVID, and they would have Food Truck Friday, different vendors set up, and we just loved that. We could go listen to live
Mhm.
music in an afternoon where we'd been working building the park all day. And then once COVID hit, I was like, oh gosh, I wonder what all these people are doing right now. So, like they can't be making money. So that's kind of where the idea or the concept came to me to have, I call it Sit Back and Relax Saturday. So every single Saturday, the first weekend of March to the first weekend of December, we have a different event of some sort. Um, it's a spreadsheet that most wouldn't want to take on. Event planning is another one of those things that I love to do, and not many people do. So the two together are really helpful. But I started reaching out to food trucks, and I only do one food truck at a time based on the limited amount of guests we have every weekend. So every weekend I have a different food truck, a different dessert truck. Um, we had a mobile bar from a company, and we ended up wanting to do more things local. So we partnered with a local um, restaurant brewery, and we built an on-site bar for them. So every Saturday we have the food truck, the dessert truck, and the on-site bar, and then it's a mix. Every Saturday is different, but we'll do either axe throwing. And the first time that I reached out to him and he came to our park, he enjoyed being around our guests and being a part of everything, that he sold his brick and mortar and just went mobile. So he goes,
Oh,
yeah,
goodness.
I feel like, I don't want to say change, we changed the norm for a lot of people, I guess, to say along the way, around the road, just being a part of the community. Or we'll do a cornhole tournament, or we do, it's called World Famous RiverWalk Bingo, because they have to just stand up and scream, "I love Riverwalk" instead of bingo if they
Ah.
want if they want to get their prizes.
Love it.
And my bingo weekends are some of the first to fill up. I do live music, kind of the same thing. These artists weren't out and about. There was nowhere they could perform. And so for that first, I'd say year, we were keeping everybody afloat in this rotation all the way down to I started a vendor market 3 times a year. I invite our vendors in. And this weekend after next is our spring market. We have over 30 local vendors. setting up showcasing their crafts, and I just knew they were making all these things in the off season, pre-COVID. So how are they paying their bills right now? And so that's kind of how a lot of the events things came started with us, and then they just caught on to, partner with the community itself has been big for us. I send out a weekly email every Monday with everything going on in the community. Twofold. Number one, so the community, our local community feels the impact from our park. But number two, so our guests have reasons, to, know where to go and want to come back and visit where they haven't been able to. So by sending out that email Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I post our weekend events. So I'm tagging all that are involved, so they're getting the social media exposure there. I think our Facebook alone has over 15,000 followers on it. So you can imagine the amount of exposure, just not with those in the park, but local people as well.
Mm-hmm.
All the way down to they feel we've partnered with some so closely that I'm big on charities, and I try to do something charity driven every month. So last month was our third annual polar plunge for hydrocephalus, and we do a lot of raffle things like that. And I don't overdo it, but I know when to reach out. And I reached out to those we partner with, local restaurants, the brewery, wineries, and they're all more than willing. Yes, let me deliver what you need for these raffle items. Because we're there for one another. Um, and I'm not afraid to ask them because I know they want to be a part of it.
It's what an amazing synergy, right? That word is
Hmm.
overused, but
Yeah.
I think it's really appropriate here. This is a really great synergy between bringing people from outside of the community and making it have an impact on local community dollars. And how much more impactful is this because you can show that your demographic is coming from within a
Yeah.
radius that could have other impact on their business, right?
Hmm.
Outside of when they're just staying with you. So really great encouragement for campgrounds that aren't already utilizing those community resources. You don't have to build everything yourself,
You
right? At
don't.
your
Yeah.
campground.
Yeah. And just two more quick examples. We're partnered with because we're on a river, we're partnered with North Carolina River Riders, and they
Love that.
shuttle to and from our park. They pick you right up from your site. You go online, book your reservations, they put you out on the river, and they bring you back. We're also partnered with another company called the Vine Line, and they have this amazing app, and it has 5 different tours. You can pick the one you want to do that day. They pick you up from your site, and they take you to 3 or 4 wineries, breweries, whichever route
Mhm.
you chosen, and they bring you right back that evening. So, all these things cost absolutely nothing to us as a park, but we're offering a ton of amenities to they want to keep coming back to see what else they can do. And so I highly encourage, other park owners to just to see what you have in the community there. That doesn't, as you said, cost anything. And I don't, as far as our vendors, we don't charge them a dime for any, like, I would never charge our food trucks to set up at our park. I'd never charge the
Right.
vendors to come sell their stuff. And I think that's another part of it is you got to there's a give and take, and not,
Mhm.
you can't expect to make money for everything.
Well, you are
Some,
making money, right? It's just
yeah,
marketing
yeah,
dollar because you are reaping the rewards of that with your clientele coming back. You're booked for a reason, right?
right,
And if
yeah,
I know that I can do the tubing right from the campsite, not have to load everybody into the truck
hmm,
and
hmm,
drive 30 minutes, right? Like that makes it 1,000 times of a better
yeah,
experience.
yes,
So this is just so on point. I've seen it trending here and there at people who describe themselves more like you as a boutique campground, right?
yeah,
All over the country. Like we were in Colorado at a campground that had a whole food truck court on Saturdays and
hmm,
our live music, right? With live musicians. Um, and just seeing this pop up, it's like this is the right way. This is what people want, right? They
hmm.
really do respond to that. So I think it's makes smart business too. Okay, we've got to head into our lightning round. Are you ready?
I'm ready, I think.
Okay, you are. All right. What was the biggest mistake you made as a new campground owner?
I think I touched on that earlier, thinking we were going to walk away.
That's not how it happened. All right.
No.
What is your very favorite thing about owning a campground?
uh, just, I can't say it enough. Our guests, our community, that warm, fuzzy feeling at the end of the day when you lay down and know that you're happy and everybody else is happy.
What's your one piece of advice? The single one, if you could only give one to somebody about to build their first campground.
It's not easy. It's a lot of work. And although it may sound easy and look easy, it isn't. And I think there's two ways to go into it. You can go into it um, expecting to collect money to pay payroll or and walk away, or you can go into it kind of like we do and just a labor of love and reap the reward either way.
Would you ever build another campground?
No.
I thought that was going to be your answer based on some of this discussion. You seem really happy
Yeah,
with what you have.
one and done.
Yeah, I like
Kind of
it.
like we have one son, an only child.
Yeah. All right. So you love the only children. I love it. Now, this I'm not sure how you're going to answer based on our conversation so far. Dynamic pricing or no?
What I want to say or what Camp Spot would like me to say.
What you want to say, because I know what Camp Spot's answer to that
I'm
is.
teasing. I was a consultant for them for for a while, and so I worked with other owners and managers. For my park specifically, no.
Okay.
Our campers are used to the mom and pop way, although is it helpful for large parks? 100%. If we had a different park model, I would be doing dynamic pricing all day long.
All right. Well, we touched on this also a little bit, your previous camping experience, but do you all now camp for fun at campgrounds? Or are you still camping outside of campgrounds?
Every Tuesday through Sunday, we camp for fun, but it's our own campground.
Okay. All right. You're happy where you are. I love it. Just the peace.
We've created our own little world, as you said, our own little happy bubble. So why would we? We'd be afraid to go elsewhere. We're not sure what we would get ourselves into.
All right. Fair enough. What is your most controversial campground rule?
Oh, that one's easy. Everybody knows the answer to this that knows us. It took us 4 years to grow grass because we had a lot of, anyway, to stay off the grass. There were T-shirts created by our guests that says stay off Jim's grass. It's my husband's rule and everybody lives by it.
All right. Got it. I like it. That's a first. I haven't heard of that controversial campground rule.
No parking on the grass, I should say.
No park in the grass. And I'm assuming no like rugs.
Exactly.
On the grass.
Yeah.
Yes. That's a big pet peeve. I know. All right. I love it. I think that's a good place to stop. Marcia, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I have to say, every time I talk to a campground owner that loves what they do and loves their guests, it just really helps solidify why this industry has nothing but growth ahead of itself, right? If it stays out of its way and does exactly what you're doing, which is creating these sorts of wonderful environments that family love to return to.
Right.
Week after week, year after year. So congratulations on your success and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Campground Confidential from Park Vendor Review. If you are a campground owner, operator, manager, or employee, make sure to sign up at parkvendorreview.com to search for vendors, read and write reviews, and access our library of resources. If you are a vendor in the outdoor hospitality space, head over to parkvendorreview.com and claim your listing today. We'll be back with another episode of Campground Confidential, but until then, visit us at parkvendorreview.com where we make vendor decisions simple.